We've all heard stories of how the most powerful nuclear weapon ever detonated could theoretically rip continents from the Earth or shatter oceans into giant tsunamis. So what would really happen if we dropped the biggest nuke ever made to the bottom of the deepest part of the ocean? Let's find out. The largest human-made object by far is an underwater city. This is a city that can withstand pressures over 1,000 times greater than sea level and temperatures hot enough to melt lead. So it's not exactly going to be destroyed by the largest nuclear bomb ever made. It's called the Mariana Trench, and at its deepest point, known as the Challenger Deep, it's nearly 11 kilometers deep. This means that if we were to drop the biggest nuke ever made into the Mariana Trench, it wouldn't just destroy the trench, it would cause some very interesting things to happen. But first, let's take a look at the biggest nuke ever made. This nuke is so big that it has its own name. It's called the Tsar Bomba, which means Tsar's bomb. It was built by the Soviet Union and it packs a punch of 50 megatons. To put this into context, the bomb dropped on Hiroshima packed a punch of around 62, so the Tsar Bomba is 800 times more powerful than the bomb that devastated Hiroshima. In fact, the Tsar Bomba is so powerful that if it was dropped anywhere on land, it would flatten entire forests, vaporize lakes, and kill everyone within a radius of hundreds of kilometers. So now we know that the Tsar Bomba is one incredibly powerful bomb. But what would happen if it was dropped into the Mariana Trench? Well, what's fascinating about the Mariana Trench is that at the bottom there's actually less pressure than at sea level. You see, for every 10 meters you go down into the ocean, the water pressure increases by 1 atmosphere. So at 11 kilometers depth, the water pressure is approximately 1,100 atmospheres. For comparison, the air pressure at sea level is 1 atmosphere. So when the Tsar Bomba detonates inside the Mariana Trench, the first thing that happens is that the massive amount of energy from the bomb causes the water around it to rapidly expand. This expansion occurs because the bomb's explosion is a nuclear reaction that takes place in 2 stages. First, there's a fission reaction, which is the splitting of atoms. Then there's a fusion reaction, which is the combining of atoms. These reactions occur in a chain reaction that releases a tremendous amount of energy. The energy from the bomb causes the water around it to rapidly expand. However, the expansion is very short-lived because the water pressure at 11 kilometers depth is so great that it compresses the expanding water back down. In fact, the water pressure is so great that it essentially neutralizes most of the explosion. What you would see from the surface is a small bubble expanding and collapsing. If you were close enough, you might think that it was a volcano, but the bubble would quickly collapse and the water pressure would compress it back down. It might sound like a simple explosion, but make no mistake, this is one massive explosion. The bomb blast itself is equivalent to 3,000 megatons of TNT. So even though much of the explosion is neutralized by the water pressure, it's still a pretty big explosion. It might not destroy the world, but it would definitely leave its mark on the ocean floor. The bomb blast would leave a crater in the ocean floor, and the water pressure would compress the water around the crater, creating a dome-shaped structure. The water pressure would also create intense currents in the ocean, which would eventually carry the radioactive water around the globe. The explosion would also generate intense heat, which would cook anything unlucky enough to be too close. Fish, plankton, anything in the path of the heat would be vaporized. The only thing that might survive the blast would be the giant squid. They live at depths of over 19 kilometers where the water pressure is more than twice what it is at the surface. So they are definitely used to a little pressure. Plus, they have a protective shell that might just protect them from the blast. As for the rest of the ocean, well, it's not exactly clear what would happen. The radioactive water would eventually spread throughout the entire ocean, contaminating it with radiation. It would also kill off much of the marine life, and the heat from the explosion would likely cause global warming. So yeah, while it might not destroy the world, it would definitely have some pretty serious consequences. Now, if the bomb blast was strong enough, it might actually cause an earthquake. The energy from the bomb blast would cause the Earth's crust to shake, potentially causing an earthquake. The earthquake could cause tsunamis and other damage, but it's not clear if this would actually happen. The reason why is that the Earth's crust is very strong. Even a massive bomb blast might not be able to cause it to shake enough to cause an earthquake. If you've seen the movie Deep Impact, you might remember the scene when a comet hits the ocean and causes a massive tsunami that wipes out most of the world's population. Well, something similar could happen if the bomb blast was strong enough. The energy from the explosion could displace a huge amount of water, potentially causing a massive tsunami. However, this is unlikely to happen since the water pressure at 11 kilometers depth is so great that it would compress any expanding water back down. As for whether the Earth would be ripped apart, well, that's highly unlikely. The energy from the bomb blast might cause the Earth's crust to shake, but it's not clear if this would actually cause the Earth to break apart. The Earth's crust is very strong, and it's held together by very strong forces. Even a massive bomb blast might not be able to overcome these forces. Finally, let's talk about volcanoes. Could the bomb blast trigger a volcanic eruption? Well, it's possible, but it's unlikely. Volcanoes are typically triggered by tectonic plate movement or changes in magma pressure. A bomb blast might cause the Earth's crust to shake, but it's not clear if this would be enough to trigger a volcanic eruption. So what would happen if the most powerful nuclear bomb ever made was dropped into the Mariana Trench? It would create a massive fireball, but the extreme water pressure at 11 kilometers depth would compress and neutralize most of the explosion. The bubble created by the bomb would expand and collapse, sending up small waves and plumes of radioactive water. But no continent-shattering consequences. There's no tsunami, no earthquakes, and certainly no shift in Earth's orbit. Despite the immense energy, the planet barely notices. The truth is humbling. Even our strongest weapons are nothing compared to the scale of Earth's natural forces. Now check out what if an asteroid hit the same spot, or watch what actually happens to your body after death.